So good morning, everyone. This is Amartya here from Climate Collective. Welcome to this session brought to you by AGNIi Mission under the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India on government policies supporting climate tech startups. Let me give a brief background about Climate Collective to people who have joined us here for the first time on this platform as well as other social media platforms. Let me quickly share my screen as well. Um, so Climate Collective Foundation has been around for 5 years. Uh, we have been active since 2016, uh, got incorporated in 2018. We started off with a presence in India, and now we've expanded to countries like Sri Lanka, Maldives, and UAE, and are on track to actually become one of the largest ecosystem-based players in climate tech in the region. Till date, we have supported 593 plus startups in sectors like energy, mobility, waste, and other important domains within climate tech. Our support programs are focused on the entire journey of a startup, beginning with aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to enter into the entrepreneurship journey, early stage startups, startups in the deployment stage, as well as startups in the proof of concept stage. Our ecosystem programs are looking to bring together diverse stakeholders to support the growing community of climate tech startups, and our new programs are on funding. Climate Collective Foundation was started by clean tech entrepreneurs who have decades of experience in climate space. They were solar and wind developers for significant number of years and have 84 plus megawatts of projects developed and commissioned. Uh, Coming quickly to what we do, our strategy to support climate tech startups and create an ecosystem of sorts is divided largely into three focused approaches and one cross-cutting approach. The entrepreneurship development programs are focused on early stage entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs who are entering into the entrepreneurship journey. We have a particular focus on women entrepreneurs, and we look to support them entering the climate tech startup journey. Our accelerator programs are basically focused on supporting growing startups by bringing together mentors, trainers, and also facilitating investor connects, corporate connects, particularly for piloting opportunities, commercial validation opportunities, etc. Our new programs are on capital, which are focused on growth startups as well as looking to create funds as well as syndicate platforms with angels, including follow on networks of various investors and partners who can support startups via capital. Our community development programs are cross cutting in nature. They cut across here where we look to support the growing community of climate tech startups in our portfolio. Specifically coming to the programs itself, we have Climate Startup School for students. We have Climate Startup School for women, for investors looking to enter into the space, and there's a new program on climate data based entrepreneurs. Our accelerators are Climate Ready for Women and Climate Ready for Students. Climate Launchpad is another program that we have for startups that may be or may not have incorporated themselves. We already have 120 plus startups this year, and last year they were about 130. Climate Runway is actually for startups in the post POC stage, while Climate Takeoff via our Electron Bike program is for deployment stage startups. On the capital side, we have Climate Pitch. Some of you would have heard few pitches during the startup week, and there might be a few ahead through the week and other programs that are coming up. Climate Angels Network is the syndicate platform of angels. Climate Seeds Fund is a two-stage fund for accelerator-linked startups, as well as will have actually a follow-on network of investor partners. Climate Startup Week is the one that you are in right now. This is a flagship annual event. Climate Start is for students and aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to come into the entrepreneurship field. We also have impact and voluntary carbon market training workshops. Climate Hub is one of our first incubator and a co-working space of sorts that is coming up in Goa. It will be launched later this month. And Climate Jobs Fair is where we help startups and job aspirants connect to each other so that we can facilitate a growing community of people who are working in the space. Uh, our strategic partnerships are, of course, very diverse and cut across all the different programs that I just mentioned to you about. Climate Kick, for example, it's the largest Europe integrated network of diverse stakeholders that support climate tech startups. It started off with the European Union focus, but now it's global. And in India, we have partnered with Climate Kick on the Climate Launchpad program. We are also in partnership with New Energy Nexus on our Electron Bike program. New Energy Nexus is one of the largest energy-focused accelerator network. Uh, and then we also have partnerships with Department of Science and Technology, Science and Technology Park Pune, for example, via our Climate Runway programs earlier. We also have a partnership with AIC Goa Institute of Management, which is on climate data startups. Some of this work on the Climate Hub and other parts will come out later this month, and we'll be very happy to announce this as well. The Incubation Network is one of the largest initiative on waste-focused startups in Asia. We have a partnership on that as well. Frontier Lab Asia is the partnership that we are having on the Climate Angels Network, which is a syndicate platform that I just mentioned to you about on supporting early stage climate tech startups. And then lastly, just the team. We are about 20 plus people as of now, and in a few months we'll be about 40. So we look forward to stay connected with you. That's largely on Climate Collective's introduction. I would now welcome Monil Khatri from AGNIi Mission to come on stage and give introductory comments on the panel and also give an introduction to the entire panelists and take the session forward. Thank you, Monil.
Thank you, Amartya. Hi there. Very good morning to all. Hope you are safe and healthy today. I am Monil Khatri, part of the AGNIi Mission, which stands for Accelerating Growth of New India's Innovation. Uh, it is one of the 9 missions under the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor to Government of India, with a larger objective to commercialize technologies indigenously developed in India. We do have a pool of around 600 plus technologies in our portfolio from various sectors, including agri-tech, clean energy, auto, FMCG, infrastructure, cybersecurity, and so on. Right. These technologies not only come from the startup ecosystem, but also from the publicly funded R&D labs and MSMEs put together. We work on adopter backward model, that is reaching out to corporates, business houses, PSUs, ministries, understanding their thrust areas or problem statements, and develop use cases for them. And then we go back, scout technologies from our portfolio, and showcase the most relevant ones for them. Hence, on one hand, we help technological upgradation for the potential adopters that I just mentioned, and on other hand, we do open market doors for the startups and the technologies incubated under us. In last 3 years since our existence, we have had 2,200 plus such instances of tech commercialization across sectors. The AGNIi Mission is a proud partner of the Climate Collective Foundation. We have supported various initiatives, including last few seasons of the Climate Launchpad, Climate Ready for Women, Plastic Challenges, and few others. Right? As part of the Climate Startup Week 2021, we are here with a panel discussion around the government support rendered to the climate-aligned startups. We have illustrious panelists participating with us from the Office of the PSA, Government of India, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and National Institute of Disaster Management. I would request panelists to put on video as soon as I am introducing one by one. It is my privilege to introduce to you Dr. Preethi Punzel, Advisor and Scientist G at the Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor, Government of India. Dr. Punzel comes with 3 decades of experience working in telecommunication policy making, telecom equipments and network standard setting, telecom project management, project finance, capacity building, and training management in the field of disaster management, energy conservation, regulatory, and policy issues. Dr. Punzel holds a doctorate in disaster communication and early warning system, along with MBA in HR and Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics and Telecommunication. She has authored a book titled Disaster Communication and Early Warning Systems. In addition, She has written several papers and articles on diverse topics on communication technologies, artificial intelligence, and disaster management. We welcome you, Dr. Bansal, and we are excited to hear from you during the session. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm extremely happy to introduce Dr. Shruti Rai Bharadwaj, Additional Director at the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Government of India. She comes with 15 years of professional experience and specializes in the field of environmental policy design and implementation, along with multilateral environmental conventions and multilateral program management. She has worked in various environmental sectors, including biodiversity, bio-waste, wetland conservation, hazardous waste management, e-waste management, and air pollution. She is the key author for National Clean Air Program for India. She is working with Impact Assessment Division with the ministry presently, and is responsible for environmental clearances of nuclear, defense, and other strategic projects, in addition to monitoring and compliance. Dr. Shruti, we are glad to have you here, excited to learn more from you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. As a third panelist, we have Professor Anil Gupta, head of the National Institute of Disaster Management. He is also a program director of the Center of Excellence of Climate Resilience and Implementing Projects, engaged on the National Agriculture Disaster Management Plan, working with the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. Health Resilience and Capacity Building National Health Adaptation Plan with WHO and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare. Crisis Management Plan to deal with contamination of water bodies, and disaster management plan of the ministry with CPCB and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. With education and training in environmental science, law, climate change, and risk management, he attained interdisciplinary expertise. He has been a recipient of numerous awards, including National Science Day Young Scientist Award in Forestry and Environment in 1996, Excellence Award by the Society of Environmental and Occupational Health, and bestowed with IDRC, Canada's think tank initiative Senior Fellowship 2011 for Policy Research. He is also an elected fellow of Earth Scientists Society. Professor Gupta, we are extremely grateful to have you here and excited to hear from you during the discussion. Thank you so much for joining us. Uh, we have the discussion. The discussion here will be moderated by Pratap Raju, founding partner of the Climate Collective Foundation. Pratap is also serving as country head of New Energy Nexus India, founding partner of the Climate Seed Fund, and National India partner for Climate Launchpad. Uh, Thank you for hosting us, Pratap. Excited to learn from you. Over to you for the discussion.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Mono. This is, welcome to the esteemed panel here. This is quite exciting. We have been working in supporting clean tech startups for many years now, and I've been a global trainer as well with the EU's Climate Kick program, in particular in Switzerland and Germany. And I think there's tremendous potential for technology to support our environmental problems. And I think that there's a lot that this panel can shed light on. Now, we are going to jump directly into questions, but this is an indirect way to allow each of our panelists to introduce themselves and their work as well. And if I may just share that this panel, the audience is clean tech startups largely. These are entrepreneurs either with solutions in the environment space or aspiring entrepreneurs. It's part of our Climate Startup Week, which normally gets several hundred people in this space here, mostly in India, coming to this event to listen to panels such as this. Maybe I'll start with Dr. Punzel. It'd be wonderful if we could hear about your work with the AGNIi Mission, and in particular in the climate space. If we start with you, thank you.
Thank you, Pratap. Good morning to you. In Agni, we are doing multiple things. The basic objective is to connect the innovators and the startup to the ecosystem so that their ideas could germinate and is sprouted into a well-organized startups and enterprises. As far as climate change space is concerned, AGNIi Mission is extensively doing in the areas of innovative technologies for renewable energy, such as solar energy, wind energy, bioenergy, hydrogen energy, hydro energy, so on and so forth. And they are also working for the in the domain of energy storage as well as energy management technologies, which are equally important. Going forward, we are going to use battery banks. So energy management of these banks are equally important. In addition, we are working with the Bhabha Atomic Research Centers, Ministry of IT, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, uh, and academia in the domain of e-waste technologies. And we are trying to transfer these technologies, which are already available with the BARC, CSIR labs, Center of Excellences, the CPET, so on and so forth. So we just want to see how these technologies are transferred, and we enter into a very effective e-waste management domain. Recently, rather yesterday only, I had meeting with the LG, Honorable LG of Delhi, for having the e-waste eco park in Delhi. So going forward, I'm going to see a good progress in this. The Agni is also working for all sort of technologies which are important for restoring the eco balance. And to my understanding, not only the renewable energy, but everything which adds to the circular economy, which adds to energy efficient service delivery, they all come under the climate change. Yeah. So I rest it. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction to your work with Agni. It's quite exciting to see Agni and many others starting to look at climate action as a space for the startup world. I'll come back on that. Dr. Gupta, your work at NIDM is very interesting. As you know, I started off as a solar developer. Mitigation was the key, but as you know, there's another part of the coin, which is adaptation. Things are changing and we need to build resilience, etc. So from your experience, what do you see in terms of how innovation can come in to support how we adapt to the changing environment from climate change and other environmental problems?
Yeah, thank you. I think the point that you raise is very important, and in terms of promoting innovations and startups, although if we look back the journey of almost 10 years, we find that there has been very significant progress. But on the other hand, we would also agree that the startup facilitation, if we look at the country profile, it's quite uneven. I would say uneven across the sectors, uneven across the geographies, uneven across the institutions. Though we recognize that we cannot have a kind of a homogeneous system, but probably we will need to look beyond certain institutions where these startups have been concentrated as on now, because their capacities have improved already. Certainly there is a need to keep the momentum on. But for example, CSIR have very CSIR laboratories have very good strengths, but there are other institutions with other sectoral ministries also. And particularly when we are looking at climate change adaptation and climate change mitigation also, because now in fact we will have to go to keep these things hand on hand. We cannot say only adaptation or only mitigation, because adaptation also has a kind of a self life, because the kind of implications, and if you look at the recent report, so I think we will have to really do very significant interventions to address the futuristic risk also. So I would say that now looking at the smaller institutions, now looking at even the central universities and state universities also, the other sectoral institutions like agriculture universities and triple ITs, some of the triple ITs have done good in the areas of the incubating and supporting startups, but not all. So this is one thing. But I would like to quote the recent developments in terms of new education policy of Government of India. And second thing is the new science, technology, and innovation policy. I think these are two policies that provide lot of cross-cutting, I would say that the facilitation to promote the startup culture and culture of bringing innovations. So I think this will need to look at. Second thing, I think it also requires a huge investment in capacity building, in helping those people, or those young minds, or the entrepreneurs who are really interested in this line, to identify the critical areas in climate risk management for futuristic issue. That's it. That is also important. Recently we organized a discourse that we should start looking at the scenarios of 2050 or scenarios of 2100. So I think the startup should also look at a long life, not only 5 years or 10 years, but how the demands are going to change over time, maybe post 2030, post 2050, or something like that. So I think these are a couple of the points that I wanted to share at this
Great.
moment. And
Great.
I would also say that innovation should also look at the alternative means of financials. There are so many financial opportunities across the sectoral budgetary provisions also. So I think we'll have to do some kind of a research on exploring those also. Yeah.
Right, right. Thank you for that introduction. It's quite great to see. In fact, we had just announced a incubator for climate risk startups in partnership with Doha Institute of Management 3 weeks ago, and we're getting a great response in the applications already. So there are solutions on the ground, especially in climate risk in particular. Thank you. Maybe if I could go to Dr. Shruti. Dr. Shruti, we spoke a couple of days ago, and you mentioned, of course, that when we're talking about water and air, how interlinked the two are. These are complex problems that require sometimes complex approaches, or at least multi-stakeholder approaches. So staying on the policy side, what role do you think policy can have in nudging action amongst all the institutional players, whether, of course, the government, but also corporates and civil society, to come together, solve these problems in these domains?
Thank you, Pratap. And I would like to thank Climate Collective for inviting me here and for that kind introduction. I think this is the time right now is very apt for having these kind of discussions wherein we are already at a stage where lot many policies, lot many regulations recently which have been introduced, which have come into play, and which create a kind of which create a kind of environment, and it's creating giving a way forward towards supporting these startups or these beginners in entrepreneurship. So as far as policy is concerned, the overall role of the policy is to create demand, in technology and services, and across the sectors. I mean, broadly, how policy works is firstly the demand is created through those policies. People start looking towards those demands. Then what they need to ensure that they create an enabling environment where these enterprises can subsequently flourish if they want to get in there. And very important role of policy is to ensure that we are able to provide a level playing field through the regulations, and to create a healthy competition over there. So basically, the policy create the framework. The policy gives you that first step for any one of us to start looking towards the opportunities, what kind of opportunities that are existing. So that is what the policy brings for you. And as far as government is concerned, government cannot run the enterprises completely. I mean, except for some of the strategic sectors. Their main role is to ensure that they are able to create a kind of ecosystem or environment wherein the private partners are able to fill in the infrastructure gap. So that's how the whole policy has to be evolved, and the strength of the policy lies around this, if they have to support the entrepreneurs. Now, going forward on this, like if you're talking about the enabling environment, then that enabling environment comes through these grants and subsidies, where which gives you which ensure that a kind of incentives is made available for you for filling up that viability gap, or for creating that market. So these are the things that policy can help you in moving through. Then what else we need to see is that these clean technologies, or clean tech environments shall be able to support those who are at the bottom of the pyramid. These technologies, or these startups shall also try to make a kind of should also look into that social impact aspect of it. If you look into the social impact aspect of it, then only your I'm sorry if with that mindset, then you also need to ensure that these policies are able to provide opportunities, equal opportunities to both men and women, which essentially means that they need to be gender agnostic. So all these kind of things need to be kept in mind while evolving policies. And yes, policies have the recent policies which have come into play, they take into account all these factors, and they ensure that we have now a kind of an environment where those kind of supports are available from the government side, where they have the major role. So if you as far as climate change is concerned, that is the major challenge of today, that is, and the whole issue is something which has been created by humankind only, and of course by technologies only. This is the outcome that we are seeing is also technology driven. So of course the solution that we have to now get into has to be more on now has to shift to the technologies which can help us working towards both adaptation and also mitigations part of it. Now we have this program, like if I talk from the Ministry of Environment side of it, the policies which are helping to helping towards creating giving those ideas for the technological interventions is one is the recent one is the National Clean Air Program, which refers to various sectors where the interventions are required, and it also has reference of various expected technologies which can help in that intervention. Now the major benefit of this intervention with reference to air pollution is that most of them have significant climate co-benefit that we can draw from that. So whether we talk about waste management, or we talk about industries, or talk about transportation, wherever we are using there is a uses of non-renewable energy, or there is some kind of emission. So everywhere, if there is any intervention from the angle of either we make intervention with the climate change aspect, or we try to make intervention from the air pollution aspect, the benefits will be multifold. If we are going for any kind of intervention in changing the fuel of an industry, where we are trying to support any kind of alternative fuels, the emissions definitely are going to be have impact not only on the local air pollution, but the overall at the broader scale on the climate change technologies. So this is one aspect where, and even for the waste management part of it. So what now needs to ensure is that whatever ideas or technologies that we have in our mind that we are referring to, we need to see how these can be integrated or synergized with this idea of startup India, where or Agni Mission, the kind of work that you are doing, what need to do is that take up those those ideas, or technological ideas, or the even I mean, if this technology is one part of it, then there are services. And in addition to the technology, there are many scope of getting into some kind of service support. Like if we talk about majorly in the waste management, there are many options, many, areas where entrepreneurs, if they are not into hardcore technology, and if they don't have that kind of background, they can definitely evolve a kind of they can help in setting up a complete integrated mechanism over there, where they can ensure that the whole chain is moving in a way, where the whole chain is in moving in a way which is much more working towards the energy conservation, which is working towards the climate, reducing the climate footprint. So there are various options. What we need to do, that pick up those policies like smart city mission, or Swachh Bharat mission, or NCAP, or any one of the waste management policies. And there are many of the ideas which we need to see that how Agni Mission or something of Startup India can pick up from there and can help in supporting, making these entrepreneurs work on that.
Great.
I think
Right.
on this part, Pratap, I think this is what I would like to convey, because I think there are many other questions that you would like to go ahead on a specific part of it. So I would like to stop here.
Great. No, thank you. Thank you. That was great. Now, I know that all three of you have quite an extensive experience across climate. However, maybe I could ask a specific question in the domain to each of you, just so we get a variety of viewpoints. Maybe I can come back to you, Dr. Punzel. AI is something that has started to take off in being used in many use cases, and increasingly in climate as well. We did a quick survey last year with a partner talking to engineering colleges, and 40% of the students studying data analytics are interested in applying that to social impact of some nature, and climate being a popular one amongst that as well. How can AI, what are some applications that you see that are very promising in leveraging AI, and more importantly, being accepted by the government or the marketplace? Because sometimes it's two different things, as we know, and maybe I could add, like, there's tremendous potential for blockchain, but it's not clear the acceptance is going to come as fast as the interest from the development of the technology for use cases in climate.
Pratap. So, as you have rightly pointed out, all across the engineering colleges, the students are very much keen to go into data science or the AI. And all these technologies, may it be AI or the blockchain, all disruptive with the advent of big data analysis, and also with the kind of processing capability we have got, digital processing capabilities. AI has now become it has huge potential because of its cross-sectoral nature and its multifarious capabilities to improve across all sectors. That includes climate change and natural disaster management. So, to be specific, we can use the AI for data prediction, for the early warnings, climate change early warning, and disaster management early warnings, as well as we can use this for the mitigation model. We can use it for many kind of energy efficient technologies. We can use for designing energy efficient buildings, smart cities, smart transportation. We can use it for the smart grid creation, so that we can have huge saving across energy consumption pattern. We can do the dynamic resource allocation, that this much amount of capacity is required over the grid, electric grid. Similarly, this kind of traffic is there across this, and we can use the smart traffic management and can save the fuel over this. So AI in general can improve the techno-economics of all processes, all industrial processes, as well as all service deliveries. And as a result, we can save resources used, made with water, made with electricity, or the land, or any kind of material. And going forward, I think for the climate change entrepreneurship or the startup ecosystem, going forward, the low cost sensors are going to be the big things. Uh, the low cost sensors for the agriculture, for the precision farming, or for the soil measurement, for the flood measurement, for the hydromet, everything. So huge scope
Right.
for AI.
Thank you. And we've seen on the ground there are lots of startups starting to look at environmental solutions using data analytics. Some of these solutions have a public good, or there's no clear private sector paying customer because of externalities, etc. And oftentimes, the government could be the potential customer. However, this hasn't been easy for startups. It's probably not easy generally, but especially for startups. Government has a lot of capabilities as well that develop internally. Is there roles for startups in AI to even work with government to improve or find solutions or spot solutions to help even the government's capabilities in leveraging AI for all the various use cases that have a public good and not an easy private sector business?
Scope. And I have even worked for the smart traffic and the smart prediction modeling with the the National Disaster Management Authority. They have huge fund for the capacity building and the projects development. So there is a scope of tying hands with them and partner in some of their projects. That is the one thing. The other thing, when I see that all across everywhere, the smart mobility and the smart cities, they are having huge scope for all kind of sensors and the AI development deployment in their projects. The greening of mining is something else. The green mining industry, Ministry of Mines, they are interested to go forward for greening of mine, and they are looking forward for good solutions.
Through even data analytics to help this.
Yes, yes, yes. And let me tell you, Pratap, that with the help of Office of PSA, we have just now opened the geospatial data. So new open geospatial data policy has come, and using this open data uh, and using the AI and the data analytics, multiple kind of solutions could be generated by these startups. And my office is also working on industry academia collaboration platform. So it's open for others to join in this event and come with their solutions. Agni is there to support.
Oh, that's
Over.
great. Thank you. Maybe I could go to Dr. Gupta. You had mentioned something about climate risk, especially prediction technologies, 20 years, 30 years onwards. And I mentioned, I shared with you, of course, that we have an incubator for climate risk for the built environment. My question is related to this: is climate risk is very tricky. The implications are very huge. It's not easy when startups or anyone with a new solution go to a potential client, sometimes the government, but mostly corporate, and say, here's your liability. It has implications. It has resistance across many other stakeholders across the corporate or others. How will we be able to find solutions for prediction, for climate risk measurement, especially future risk in terms of liabilities in this environment? Is there ways that the government can support startups who have these risk management tools that they're developing? Is this something that requires more ecosystem building before we can start to see solutions really scale up?
This is also a very important point. In fact, I would like to connect with where Dr. Preethi left, and in fact, Dr. Shruti also touched upon. As the theme of this discussion itself is promoting ecosystem for startups, I think that is very important. And since the issues of climate risk management, the term is uncertainty. So certainly having some level of risk and some level of doubt over the projections and prediction model outcomes will certainly remain. But what is needed now, that to identify the key determinants which can influence the outcomes of the projections. And here and that is the reason, not only at the international level but particularly even in our country also, now there is a lot of emphasis on multi-hazard warning systems and multi-hazard risk management approach. So even if the prime focus is on climate risk management, we cannot leave aside other risk also if that piece of land or that particular geography is exposed to, because there is an interaction of various risk also. For example, if a housing complex is exposed to earthquake and it is exposed to urban flooding also, I think it requires a combination of this thing, and to look at the integrated risk assessment approach. So this is one thing that will improve the credibility of the innovations and initiatives which are being brought by startups. But here I would also like to stress that in past 10 years, what we have seen, that many of the startups are working very, very closely with many state governments, disaster management authorities also, and also the climate change cells, and have been supporting. Because now we are looking at the implementation of SAP-CCs, the State Action Plan on Climate Change. And now basically the second step that we are looking at, that we take the implementation at district level. So certainly when we say district level, then certainly downscaling of the projections at district level, because the infrastructure located in a coastal district and infrastructure located in a non-coastal district, even in a coastal state, the aspects will vary. So this is one thing. Second thing, that I think communication is also a very, very important area in disaster risk management. Dr. Preethi also touched upon, because the risk information timely reaches to the last mile person. That is also important, because the past disasters, if we analyze, we find that even a minor gap in the communication channel can lead to a major impact. So these are things. And I would also like to add one aspect when we talk about startups in climate risk management. So two dimensions. One is that how startups can contribute in climate risk management. But second thing, we should also look at that how do we promote climate proofing of the startups. I think that is also a very important area, because we need to make sure that whatever interventions are being taken up within startup strategies are climate proof, because so that we should not find that after 10 years or after 5 years, no, this is not climate friendly, or this is not environment friendly. I think this is and the disaster resilience also, I think this is also important, because these are huge investment, maybe by the individual, supported by government or the financing institution, something like that. So these are few aspects I would like to share here.
Thank you. So like climate proofing, you mean like more information about the technology and some impact assessment so that it helps the ecosystem select who to back more, rather than maybe seeing any adverse effects, or maybe the impact is not as large, it's more commercial. Things like this, I think, is what we're referring to. Yeah, I agree. Thank you. That was great. And maybe I could ask Dr. Shruti on the startup side. I know your experiences across waste and clean air and other aspects of clean tech. One thing that we've seen is once EPR policies start to get strengthened, a lot of startups are starting to come up and talk to corporates and say, let us help you with your policy. Traceability is starting to come up as corporates start to put pilots on the ground. How do you see this also happening? And in particular, waste is one thing, but air is quite tricky. It's a more difficult space for startups, often because the government is because of the public good nature. Government is often a big customer.
This EPR, the extended producer responsibility part of it. Actually, this EPR is not across all the waste management rules. We have 6 waste management rules. That is solid waste, that covers majorly the municipal solid waste rule. Then we have your plastic waste rule. We have this hazardous waste rule. We have e-waste rule. We have construction and demolition, and then biomedical waste rule. The EPR part is a major component of one is the e-waste rule, and the second one is the plastic waste rule, where this has major role, and which creates a major scope for anyone or any of the green entrepreneurs who want to come forward. Now, this is one sector, like just I said, that if it is not that where if you are not even thinking about some hardcore technology, if you are not an engineer and you're not into some technology innovations, you can be part of clean tech or climate technology through this creation of this services infrastructure, through entering through the services infrastructure, or helping the whole environment sector by supporting creating the whole background for this. So EPR EPR is supported by many other provisions and policies, and this, like if I for just for the example purpose, I'll be referring to the e-waste rule. Like in this, EPR is supported by your producer responsibility organizations. Like we have created a provision of PROs, we call them PROs. Then we have also created a provision of e-waste exchange, where where there can be an independent, somebody can coordinate, or somebody can take up creating an independent market, either directly, or the best way nowadays, easier way is through the online platform, where they can ensure that both the buyers and sellers of the waste are available at one platform, and it's much more easier to handle the whole waste sector. So these are the options which have already been created as part of the e-waste legislation. Now, for extended producer responsibility, we had this law previously also, but there were no details that how it will be implemented. Now, the recent law of 2016 refers to all these provisions, that how EPR will be supported. Now, the scope for these entrepreneurs is supporting this EPR, either if we only refer to the regulation through this PROs, this producer responsibility organizations, and as I understand, there are many who have got into this sector by creating a kind of by setting up these kind of PROs and supporting this. Producers are basically those who are brand owners. I mean, if we talk about the definition, either those who are brand owners or those who are importing and selling it. They need a mechanism to help them out with complying with the regulation. Now, the regulation now is more stricter, because in the regulations, where all the producers are required to ensure that they meet that 30% take back target, and for that they need to have that waste available with them. The problem with our country is that, especially sector like e-waste, that majorly is still being regulated by informal sectors. So there, and for producers, for the brand owners, it's very difficult to go, in the field and get back that waste for them and meet the target. That's
Right.
how these are the supporting areas that we created, mechanism we created. And PROs is something which one PRO can take up service, can supply, can give services to many of the. I mean, it's all market based. There is no such restrictions, and depending upon their capability, and depending upon their efforts, depending upon their marketing strategies, they can always take up the work for many of the producers. And the idea is to ensure that the waste is collected and channelized to the authorized recyclers finally in a environmentally sound manner. Means there should not be any leakage, there should not be any kind of adverse impact while this whole thing is going on, either during transport or during any kind of processing. There is a lot of risk involved with the processing of the e-waste also. So basically, then PROs take the responsibility, and I realized that the recent data shows like are already around, I think, 60 PROs, which are all the young ones and the green entrepreneurs, we can call them. They are already into the market. They are already supporting many of the producers,
Right.
and it's working quite well. There is one option. I mean, what I have noted is that there is one area which is still blank. Is that e-waste exchange? I don't know why nobody has tried to explore that area, because that is something which can where somebody can use your data analytics or AIs or any of the blockchain methodology to create a kind of platform where they can bring all the stakeholders dealing with the e-waste at one platform. They can coordinate there. I mean, that requires some kind of entrepreneurship, and they
Right.
can ensure that the whole circular economy in reference to at least e-waste is being complied with. So these are some of the options areas people are working, and there are still a lot of scope, because it's a huge country. Lot many producers are working there. There are, and other than the brand owners, there are, I mean, millions of those who are importing and selling. So
Right.
they all are looking forward to these kind of setups who can help them out, and they have a lot of scope. I mean, that's
Right.
what I can say. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Great. In fact, we do know of 2 early stage startups in our portfolio trying to set up an e-waste exchange. So there is experimentation on the ground. These are, of course, exchanges take time to get acceptance and getting the right stakeholders, but we do see interest on the ground for this. And when it comes to policy, in particular in the waste sector, the investment side, we have an angel network called Climate Angels Network. It's very sensitive to stability in policy and enforcement, because it makes it easier for them to also provide the needed capital for some of these startups. So it's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of parts of the jigsaw puzzle that need to be put together for some of our solutions. Great. I have one last question, and then yes.
Can I make a very small intervention here?
Yes,
That would be very useful if somebody wants to get into the e-waste sector. Is that any of the any kind of business model or business plan that somebody wants to get into with reference to e-waste? Very important thing that has to be kept in mind. Do integrate informal sectors for the sustainability of that business model. Otherwise, in our country, it will fail.
Right.
And as I know, many of these sectors, many of these PROs, they have involved them in their mechanism, where they are using them. They're calling them when they are taking the registration for their PROs. They are integrating these people, these informal sectors, calling them their aggregators. So who are informal till now, informal, and were called the illegal as of now, they also get a registration number. They also get into the system, and they are the main one who knows where the e-waste can be sourced. They know where is the material, they know from where to get it. So if you involve them, it will be successful. Without them, it may not work.
Right.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Right, thank you. In fact, in Climate Starter Week yesterday, we had a convening on solar waste, where we brought together IPPs and other partners to see how innovation can help support that, because that will be an increasing problem by the end of this decade in significant scale that we need to start planning now. So it's of urgence today. I have one last question. If I have a few more minutes of your time, I know we're starting to near time. Just one more question, and then we have two questions from the panel, if that's all right. I'll just move the order around a bit. Just to start with Dr. Gupta. I had mentioned earlier that I'm a global trainer, not just here in India, but outside. So I've seen a lot of clean tech solutions. We have a lot of startups here in India, a lot of applied engineering startups, or applied application-based startups. We also have great green entrepreneurs. On Monday, if we could share with you the list of women in plastic waste program that we ran called Climate Ready for Women. Amazing entrepreneurs from two cohorts that we shared with in this week as well. There is something though in Switzerland, in one program that I was training, 80% of the startups came from R&D labs. It came from technical institutes. And the startups, of course, doesn't mean they're better or worse. It means that they have a different characteristic and from a startup or a business point of view, highly defensible, highly scalable. This is something where in labs across India, I get emails every now and then asking, I have the solution, what do I do to become a startup as some researcher, et cetera. And as you know, these are not easy things for people in institutes. I think if you may know better than me, but flexibility to take sabbaticals is not as easy. So we often see them having some students masquerading as a startup, but their work is the base and it doesn't work in practice. How do you think, if I may ask, and you probably know much more than I do of what's sitting in our research institutes across the country, how do we unlock this more in the clean tech space, some of which can go in a startup vehicle and not just to licensing?
Yeah, I think this is also a very important aspect that you touched here. And here, in fact, a kind of a consortium models. In fact, the past also, the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, also I was looking at some of the initiatives they tried to do, but I think this approach has to be more intensified, because this is something is going to be very, very promising approach. And I think we will need to talk to the AICT and UGC also, because the kind of presses the researchers and academicians may have within the institutions, that despite of having some kind of innovative ideas with them, some of them just keep with them, and the idea, some of the ideas they do not see the light of the day. So that is one thing. Second is I think in India, the environment for a startup is not only limited to only some laboratories, because there are a lot of innovations coming from within the communities also, even the smaller institutions I referred in the beginning also. So I think we will need to be a kind of a looking at these kind of opportunities where we can promote. Just take an example, the researchers who can speak in English, who can make a good project report. I think they can mobilize better access rather than the people who cannot speak in English. And so I am really very happy that the currently under the government we are trying to promote that the people in native languages also, the local languages also, can come forward. So I think this is very important thing as being promoted under the national education policy also. And just to inform that currently we are working for science, technology and innovation policy of the country for disaster risk management and climate risk proofing. So I think they're promoting startups and innovations would be a very, very important aspect there. And in fact, I will be looking forward to interact with you all in this process. And certainly PSA, Office of PSA would be on board, being one of the organizers, and Ministry of Environment, we are working very closely. So these will be opportunities, but I think a holistic viewpoint, I think we will need to revisit. Opportunities are there, strengths are there, but I think we will need to improve the facilitating environment a little more in the institutions.
Yeah. Right. No, right. I agree. If I may ask either of the other panels this question, if you've seen this similar situation, amazing research or technologies being developed in institutes, but not being able to be unlocked for applications, especially in particularly for the private sector, but could be for the government as well. Either you, yes.
Yes, Pratap. So this is a common problem, so to say. Um, Translating the laboratory research into the commercially viable product. Uh, the problem is that most of the research, they come at some TRL level 6 or 7. They are happy with something getting on the laboratory, but taking it forward to the level 9 or 8 and then actually translating it is something which even government is thinking about. So from our office and from the Niti Aayog, we all are trying to push the Department of Science and Technology, the CSIR, and even the MITI and all the Center of Excellences. We are trying to push that let these technology be translated into the actual product. And mostly and most importantly, kind of paradigm shift is happening. Now the government programs, we are taking industry and the startups as big partners, and we are opening our labs and arms for others to use. Even the labs are being opened up, others can come do research, use the facilities. I'm just giving you one example. There is Netra in the Nano Mission in across some 7 IITs, and they have opened the lab for all to join at very nominal rates, so people can go test their ideas and come forward with the good technology in hand. So going forward, I see a good positive things and the ecosystem coming up all across the government as well as private.
Right. No, that's great. The lab access, I think, will help because we do see that as a gap in the early stage part of the journey in clean tech, which often is very lab requiring of labs, I should say. And of course, also there's the existing technologies that exist in institutes too, which is a different part of the problem. To bring that to the market through startups more. So that would be great to see. Dr. Shruti, did you want to add here something or
One important thing that I would like to highlight is, biotechnology-based, area, which I realize most of the time remain ignored. There are support for engineering-based technologies. There is support for services, but there is not a kind of impetus that is required for biotechnology or microbial cultures, which, because there are many of the technologies of late I have seen which are coming out from the biology labs, and nobody is there to look towards them, and we are not focusing on them. And because probably we are much more inclined towards, because for us technology is limited to the engineering aspect of it. So what I would like to request to all the major stakeholders, because all of you are the stakeholders in developing and evolving this green entrepreneurship, that do not lose sight to the biological interventions. And there are lot many good interventions which are available, which I myself know about it. Like there are so many of them. I have read that the people have worked, they have evolved a kind of microbial cultures, the conglomerate, which works in in increasing some kind of fertility of the soil. So when you're talking about the adaptation, there are some of the technologies which I have read, which I have discussed, which can change the productivity level of even the wastelands. So lot many things which you're talking about adaptation part of it. So we should, and they are really working. They are really working. So, but they don't know who will be providing that hand holding to take them to the level where they can make use of it in the field, or actually it can show the outcome which makes it marketable. So, and there are many other such technologies which are available, very good technologies, lot of impact on the both climate aspect and other area of the environment, and would like that they should be given equal opportunity. I mean, you should make a special mention somewhere in your documents that both engineering and biotechnology or bio-based technologies shall be brought into the forefront while we are trying to address any kind of these kind of issues, environment related issues.
Right.
Thank you.
No, right, absolutely. So thank you. I know we're starting to run out of time, so I'm just going to limit to one question that came in Q&A. And this is a kind of a forward question, or a future question. There's a lot of CSR, of course, that goes and maybe is skewed towards education and healthcare, where the need is great. But there's also a lot of CSR that is pending, that's unspent because of the time the government has allowed for corporates to put their systems in place and finding programs. Do you think that there is a need for some sectoral CSR in our sector in clean tech to help solve our environmental problems? And is this something that the government is considering to bring more CSR to our space? And this is open to anyone on the panel.
Should I respond briefly?
Please.
Yeah, I think this matter has already been under discussion for past few years, and the government's policy in CSR has also included expanding many of the climate proofing initiatives under the CSR expenditure. So, what is important that we identify the good CSR initiatives and should be brought to the knowledge of others. I would not name the particular industries, but in the recent past 4-5 years, excellent initiatives have come where we can evaluate the adaptation value of these kind of interventions. And many of the CSR interventions have showcased that these are not the expenditures but the investments. So this is important. Like a recent initiative like Leaders for the Nature. Some of the corporate have joined, and they are promoting the nature-based solutions. I think the industrial cooling challenges, particularly in the wake of increasing heat wave issues in Telangana and Andhra. I think this is a new aspect that we experience in past few years, that even industries have now to gear up to adapt to the impact of climate change. So I think these are the initiative, because if water is not available, then how do we run the industry? Because so there are so many other things. And the second aspect that I would like to just flag briefly, that there is a lot of opportunities when we start looking at the product life cycle. As we are promoting more IT based solutions and artificial intelligence, I think the greater challenge will be of the end of life treatment of many things. And I think that is a huge area that is coming. And the past 1.5 years that we have seen that we are surrounded with all these gadgets. So certainly this is a huge business opportunity also, and also a responsibility. Yeah.
Dr. Punzel, Dr. Shruti, anything to add?
if I may, yeah. So, adding further to what Dr. Gupta has just now spoken about, he has just alluded to the end of life products. And it's going to expand not only across the electronic gadgets, but also everything, the wind turbines, the solar panels, so on and so forth. This is the one area, the waste management. And the second, we are interacting. One of the team in the office of PSA, they are working on the strategic partnership domain, and they are using the CSR fund. They are adding big corporates and connecting them to the academia in the form of center of excellences, and they are going to create these kind of COEs with the multi-stakeholder partnerships in all areas. And the water management and the wash is one of those areas. So I request you, Pratap, that all those who are listening here, that I invite them, if we have some specific proposal or interest to join, we can facilitate them.
Your email inbox may be overflooded from that offer, but I guess that's a good thing too. Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, I got.
Right. Well, I mean, thank you. This has been great. When I started in 2016 with, I think, India's first solar hackathon, it was still a quiet space. There wasn't so much follow-up, and everything was mostly IT, consumer internet, and other sectors in our startup ecosystem. Something special has happened in the last 2 years. Entrepreneurs have decided that this is something exciting for them, which is what we need. We need that commitment to solve an environmental problem and make a business out of it, and oftentimes leveraging technology as well. So this is, I will be happy to share with you what we see on the ground in our programs, in our partners' programs, all the innovation coming up, because we definitely need your support and the government support generally. And over the years, I think without Agni's help, we wouldn't have been as successful. Every time we have a new program, we normally call Agni to say, look, we need help because we're looking for these quality solutions. You can't run a successful program oftentimes without a really strong, committed cohort. So I want to thank Agni again for their support, and I'll pass on to Mono as well to close the session.
Sure. Thanks for this, Pratap. In fact, I just wanted to add a line here. The recently published IPCC report indicated humankind will not be able to sustain the temperature rise Earth would reach in next few decades from now, right? So, sorry. It was clear in the discussion that innovators working towards climate change are key players in mitigating this risk that I just quoted. At this stage, supporting them at central and state government level is of prime importance. I thank all the panelists here for laying out multi-stakeholder approaches that your departments and institutions are taking in this regard. It clearly came out that India has made considerable movements in the space, but has a long way ahead, of course. I thank Dr. Punzel, Dr. Bharadwaj, Professor Gupta for taking out time today and enlighten us with the support rendered by your department institution to the climate tech startups here. Thank you, Pratap, for moderating the session so well. I thank the Climate Collective Foundation team, including Amartya, for handling the session very well. I know the preparation began a few weeks back. Thank you so much for this. Listening to us, thank you so much for joining us today. Hope you had a wonderful time, and I wish you a great day ahead. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Right. And a quick shout out to Deepti, Christian, Sachin on my team here. They don't come on the screen, but it takes quite a few people to put these events together. So, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.